You'll also may be pleased to hear, maybe not, as you're creative people, that there's no death by PowerPoint in this, and I'm just going to talk to you about finance, which is a critical issue for all of us. I mean, when Uday said he wanted me to speak about finance after lunch, I thought that's a real graveyard slot. But just think about finance as the money for your business, and it suddenly starts to sound a lot more interesting. I am chairman of a small seed fund in the northeast of England. We have £20 million. We're based in the northeast in Newcastle. It's a regional fund, so we can only invest in companies in the northeast of England. Right, so that's a disappointment to many of you. But it does mean that I know quite a lot about the requirements, what we look for in companies that we are going to put investment in. I'm also on the board of a much larger VC firm in London, GRP, Venture Capital. And probably very importantly from your point of view, I'm involved in a number of companies from the other side of the table where we're actually doing startups. So one of the companies, for example, I'm chairman of an electric vehicle recharging business, the largest company in the UK. We've just completed, last week in fact, an investment round. So I understand what it's like to try and raise money. I also know what it's like to try to evaluate companies that are looking for money. And you know, it is very useful to be able to see things from both sides of the table. Now, let me disappoint you. First of all, I have not brought along samples. I did not come along with a wheelbarrow of cash. Secondly, I haven't got a magic wand that will guarantee you will get funding for your business. But I can tell you about quite a lot of things that if you don't get right, they will guarantee you won't get funding for your business. Now let me ask the question, how many of you run your own business? Right, yeah, good, that's what I'd like to see. How many of you are looking for money? Or might be looking for money in the near mid-term future? Yes, okay. A lot of you. Right, so this is quite interesting and relevant. One of the things we all want our business to do is grow. It's very rare that I get a CEO turn up my office and say, next year we're planning to shrink 10%. You know, that would be quite a surprise. And to grow, we normally need money, additional money into the business. It is possible to bootstrap a firm. I know companies that have done it, but it's tough. And it increases your probability of failure many times. So for most of us, we need what I call external funding, some source of money in addition to those funds that we've got available ourselves to finance and enable us to grow our business. So where can we get that money? Well, there's sort of three main sources, four really, because I think Uday mentioned earlier, the most important source of money for your business comes from your customers. Yes, don't ever forget that. But beyond that, to get going, we often need money to start. There's grant money, used to exist. Can you remember that? There are probably still a small number of sources of grant funding at the moment, but they're not many. TSB is probably one of the best sources at the moment. There are some, you might find charities, you might get some money from regional growth funds. Grant funding is good. I'd always encourage you to use it if you can get it, but watch out, it's never totally for free. It will take a lot of your time and effort to apply for the money and to monitor it and to report back on it. So it's never totally free. Get it when you can, but don't spend all your life chasing around after it. There's loan financing, right? It used to be the major source of funding for businesses for the last 150 years in this country. These days, the only way you get money out of a bank is if you go in with a gun and a face mask on. So I would advise you to look for other ways of getting money, and we end up talking about investment finance. And this is really where, other than small amounts of grant funding, unless you get a TSB grant, which can be quite big, most of us will be looking for investment financing to fund our businesses. Again, every business has different requirements. You know, the amount of money you need, the products that you're developing or services, the sector you're working in, the region where your company is based, the number of people you've got, etc. So there's no guaranteed solution for everybody. If you're looking for small amounts of money, angels still exist, they're still prepared to deal. They're less plentiful than they used to be, but you still can find angels. This region, we are fortunate, by region I mean Cambridge and the London area, the southeast as a whole. We've probably got the best group of angels you're going to find this side of the Atlantic. You need to understand what angels want. You need to understand their motivations. You have to persuade them that they're going to get a positive return on the money. But the really important thing to do is get them interested in the business. Because in my experience, what they really want to do is play in your sandbox. They love running business, and what they want to do is come and play with yours. That can be good, it can be bad, so selecting the angels you want is important. Treating them well. Don't grab their money and then hand them off and not ever speak to them again. The more you get them involved in the business, the happier they'll be. And I have, in a previous business that I was chairman of, I managed to go around and get 7 funding rounds from the same group of angels because we kept them well informed with what we were doing. So it can be done. It requires good investor relations. Seed funds. In the northeast of England, where my seed fund is based, there are 5 other seed funds. You know, there's more money in the northeast of England, the northwest, than there are deals. You know, we're in the silly situation up there of seed funds competing with each other for deals. Down here, it's a desert. You don't have it. Should I apportion blame? Maybe I won't apportion blame for why there's less seed funds down here than there should be. I've known people move their business from Cambridge to Newcastle to get funding. It can work, but you really have to be committed to do it. And you won't find these days that you can get away with re-registering the company in Newcastle and all living down here. Because our money comes from the European Investment Fund, and they have now, in their audits, now get us to provide evidence of where the directors of the firms live. And one of the funds in the northeast of England got found out on this, and they're having to repay several £million, which is going to have to come from the directors' pockets, which they're not very happy about. Let me move on to venture capital firms. Right, the people who we often think about when we're thinking about investment funding. It does still exist, but the venture capital industry in the UK is about half the size that it was 5 years ago. There is still money available, but it's tougher to get. I think a really important thing to remember with venture capital is it's the most expensive source of money you're ever going to get. If you ever thought that a 12% interest rate on a bank overdraft was high, you wait till you sit down and work out what it's cost you for that £1 million that you got in your business when you come to sell it. It will have been a great deal more than that. However, if you need £1 million, you need 2 million, you need 5 million, you have to go to a venture capital firm. So, what do you need to do to raise investment finance? Well, some of the things are pretty obvious. You need a great business concept. You need a great team. You need a convincing business plan. And when I look at and think about these in order, the most important is your team. When we look at any investment deal, the first thing we're looking at is, who are these people? Have they done it before? Have they got a track record? Have they got the necessary skills and experience? Have they got the relevant skills in the business that we need? If you turn up on your own to our seed fund, even with a great idea, we will say, sayonara. Go away, come back when you've got a team of people to work with you. I can't think of any commercial investment business that would invest in one person. We're always looking for a team. And in that team, I'm looking for someone who can sell. Right? You have to sell your concept, sell your product, sell your services. I'm looking for someone who can deliver. Right? That means somebody who makes stuff happen. 100%. Reliable. On budget. On time. I'm looking for someone who can look after the money. Yeah. I'm looking to see, have you got those skills in the business? If you haven't, I want to see that you recognise you need them and you're going to get them in the near future. But if you don't know that you need someone to look after the money, then I've got a serious worry about whether I'm going to invest in you, however great the idea is. When people turn up to present to us with their business plans, when they come in the door, I'm looking at them. The first thing I'm looking at, I'm thinking, are you trying to steal my money? People do it. It's happened. Second thing I'm looking at them is say, can I trust you? Do I really believe that you can make this £250,000 into £1 million? Have you, this group of people with this idea, have you got the capability, the energy, the commitment to make it happen? And if you haven't, and that you can see it in people's eyes, that's the most important thing. I don't give a damn. Well, not quite a damn. I care very little for the idea. It's your commitment and energy to do it. But I do care a bit about the idea. And I want to see I want to understand it, and I want to see how you plan to execute it in your business plan. Now, at Rivers Capital Partners, we get about 100 business plans a month through our door. We fund, on average, 4. Right? We are the good guys. Right? Our ratio is better than almost anybody else. Also, because our deals are quite small, we have to move fast on deals. Our average time between somebody first contact and investing in them is 8 weeks, which is kind of unheard of in the industry. Our aim is speed. The fastest deal we've ever done was 3 weeks from first contact to money in the bank. If you're dealing with a traditional venture capital firm, you can count on those figures being months. Yeah, and a typical deal would take you 9 months to put together. So if your business is running out of cash, when you go to the VC, you probably won't get to the end before you run out of cash, and then you'll suddenly find that the terms under which they're going to deal have changed enormously. So out of these 100 business plans, we're only funding 4. Why do you think that is? Are we just mean?
Lack of funds.
Pardon?
Lack of funds?
No, it's not lack of funds. Actually, we are behind schedule on investing in our businesses. I'll tell you why. It's because most of the business plans are crap, right? And who's that down to? The entrepreneurs. They're all too often focused entirely, uniquely upon their idea, their concept, and they don't provide us with anything like enough evidence to convince us that this is a business that's is worth funding. We want good ideas, but what you have to do is to provide us with the evidence that there's a real need for what it is you're offering. It really doesn't work to turn up in our office and say, trust me, it's a great business opportunity, can I have £500,000? You have to show us what it is. So assertion doesn't work. Telling us it's great, people will love it, it's better than the competition, doesn't work. I need evidence. And this means you need to have talked to customers. You need to have really be clear about what the competition is doing, so you can show why what you've got is much better than the competition, why people will buy it, why they'll pay the price that you say that they will, and why that this is sustainable and there'll be enough of these people to buy it. So we're looking for, when we look at business plans, we want to see that you've got a great team, a team that can do this. We want to see it's a big market, that you've got a clear product differentiation which people will pay for, and that you've got sustainability. One of the key things that one of my business partners does when we have an investment meeting and somebody's presenting to us with their business, he's always there with his laptop open, and he types in and he does a quick search on the competition. I would say 75% of the cases he will find 2, 3 or 4 competitive businesses that the people presenting don't tell us about. What does that look like to us? It either looks like you're hiding something or you haven't done your homework. I'm not sure which is worse. Your product in the marketplace is not in an absolute position. It's in a competitive position relative to what your competitors are doing. You need to be able to convince us why you're going to be better than the competitors on every element. Now, that all sounds quite tough sort of thing to do, but raising money is tough. It's always been tough. It's tougher today than it's been probably for any time in the last 10 years. This doesn't mean you can't get funding. We're funding businesses every month. I know businesses being funded in the Cambridge region every month. It does mean you're going to have a great business concept, a great team, and a great business plan. If you put all those things together, you can still get the money you need. Just a couple of closing points. Always work out clearly how much money you want. It may be that there are different options. You could grow this way, you could grow that way, but don't turn up making it seem as though you're just after as much money as you can get away with and you don't know what you're going to do with it. For funding, actually this is another important point. What do we want you to use our money for? We want you to use it for growth. If we see that you want to use our money to repay directors' loans, right, which is a common thing people try, we will not invest. And I don't know of any investor who will. If you're using it to fund working capital, we're not so keen. We want to see our money used for product development, service development, and market development. We want to see it used to grow the business. You should be quite clear about the type of deal structure that you want. Are we going to argue about valuation? Yeah, probably. But you don't come in without any idea of what deal you're looking for. If you're dealing with nice people like us, we'll probably try and help you to sort out what it is you're doing. If you're dealing with some of the roughy-tufty end of the market, the big boys, then nail you to the floor and bleed you dry. That's their job. Raising money is critical for your business. Approaching it in a professional way is important. Making sure you allocate enough time to it is important. And doing the job right. If you do it right, you'll raise the money, otherwise you'll waste a lot of your time. Thank you.
Very good, thank you for that, that's excellent. Series A, B, C. You need that mask and a gun in the UK to get Series A, B, C at the moment.
Yes.
How do you think, how is that ever going to get released? I mean, high net worths are follow-on investing like there's no tomorrow. We are good seed, in England.
Yeah.
How on earth is Series A going to release in the UK and start to drive tech from where it needs to go into that growth?
I'd like to look to, actually maybe we should be looking at Frank here and say
Frank's reaction was to say they want to come and work with me to how we fix this.
what is BIS doing on this? I think that there's a real funding gap. If I think back to, there have been several government reports on how do we bridging our funding gap. I can remember Treasury Report 2002 looking at exactly this thing. There's always a problem there, but business angels are probably a key to this. I think it's probably worth checking what sort of amount of money you're looking at from 50k.
I'm talking about the 1 million.
1 to 3.
1 to 3. It's that you've gone through your seeds.
Yes.
You've gone through your high net worth.
The 1 to 3. Yeah.
The 1 to 3, and suddenly now you need that expansion capital.
Yes.
Do you think it's a government thing, or do you think it's an LP thing? Or GP thing, actually?
A GP thing. The real problem at the moment is that the funds are having trouble raising more money. I can't think of any fund that has been able to raise raise a reasonable sized fund and launch it in the last 3
So
4 years.
Peter, there's a man sitting over there who's going to comment.
Oh, is it?
The Technology Strategy Board.
So just tell everybody who you are.
I'm Nigel Walker. I'm from the Technology Strategy Board. There are a couple of things. In terms of the bulking up on angels, there's the Angel Co-Investment Fund. That's government backed through the regional development, sorry, the Regional Growth Fund. So that enables angel syndicates to punch above their weight by getting effectively doubling up their money from government sources. The other key player in the market now is the Business Growth Fund, which is not government money, it's bank money.
Yeah.
And that's looking to make equity investments where 3i used to be many years ago.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at those sorts of figures of established growth businesses, but at an early stage of venture capital.
I think what we need to see from the Business Growth Fund is an acceleration of their deal flow, because it has been very slow in getting started.
Half a dozen done so far, I think?
If that.
I thought it was 4. I mean, I know the people in London quite well.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, I don't know that I can give you an answer. I think maybe some of the answers coming from the TSB.
Did you read the Kaufman report?
Which one?
The US Kaufman report that just says VC's not working and never will.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my hypothesis now.
Yeah.
Having spent a year literally working with it, is that VC is a broken model. But what we put in its place is problematic. And one of the reasons, this event really came out of the conversations that Frank and others have been having to say, what can we do? Because, and one of the reasons that I'm quite keen to have corporates in this tent, if you like, is because corporates actually are sitting on a lot of cash, and corporates could do with more innovation inputs, etc., and dialogue with SMEs.
Actually, something which I'd really like to see on the VC model is for us to move more to a US business model where VCs invest in companies for their lifetime, rather than investing for a deal, a funding round. European VCs tend to invest looking as though they're buying shares which they can sell at the next opportunity. In the US, they stay with companies and they will say, we'll put in your first $500,000, then your $1 million, then your 5, and they'll stay with you for life. And that's a model which really hasn't been adopted in the UK, and I think is a fundamental change that will make a big difference.
So two points. So I was just saying that you mentioned 3i there. The first money that I ever raised was actually through 3i. And I mean, I think that the fact that something like that doesn't exist is actually, I think if you went back to what it was like 20 years ago with 3i, which was, vast number of regional offices, lots of expertise, and an ability to play at every level. I think that's the thing which is actually missing, because it seems to me that actually the real issue is that there's plenty of people at the higher end, and it's the fact that actually 3i was actually quite happy to play at all levels and in all markets and in all regions, and was even able to kind of move things around from regional office to regional office.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you're right. But if you look at 3i was it was about industrial investment, and it had a strategy. I think we are now in the throes of the ideological debate that's not quite got going about the level of national intervention that the government makes versus what the private sector does.
Yeah, but 3i was a successful organisation. What its problem was that it decided that, or its shareholders decided to cash in its chips and go chasing after,
Yeah, but ask yourself who the principal shareholder was. It was an
fine.
ideological political decision.
Yeah,
just as the privatisation of all the.
But what I was saying is that surely there is still a way of bringing that together.
There may be, but I think the ideological backdrop internationally makes it very, very hard. Very hard indeed in the current. If you look at.
I would have thought, basically that the banks could be persuaded to do the same things they were did before, which is basically,
We should have this debate offline because there is a. Sorry, there's one more here.
I was just wondering, out of the people that you reject, what sort of feedback do you get? And do you see a lot of them come back to you at a later date with a sort of revised plan, or do you just sort of, do they never come back?
Well, one of the things is VC firms tend to be reluctant to give commentary on why they rejected businesses because a couple have been sued for that. So we won't tell people what it is that they're doing wrong. One of the things that we know works well is the success rate. If you've had a professional advisor work with you on your developing your business plan, your success rate is probably 4 times what it is if you just try and do it on your own.
And that's where the team element comes in as well.
That team may help, but if you actually get a professional corporate finance person to work with you, it would cost you. So you've got that trade-off. You're going to have to pay money for a corporate finance person to work with you to develop your business plan, make sure you're talking to the right people, you're talking about the right sort of deal, but it will increase your chances probably times 4. One of the things we will say to people is, look, go and talk to this corporate finance person.
So I know that a number of people wanted to ask questions. Can I, in the interest of time, I mean, can I suggest that you talk to Peter later on?
Yes,
He's around. Because we're running now about 40 minutes late, so...
Sorry, this isn't a question for Peter, this is a generic one, if I just may be ever so brief. We've talked about customers as a source of finance. What we haven't spoken about, though, is suppliers and corporate venturing with potential suppliers who...
So we in fact, one of the things, Frank and I have been running some sessions where we've had roundtables and we've actually published some of that stuff which looks at all these issues. So I'll send you a link to that.
Right.
Because if you'd like to participate in that dialogue, it would be really great. Yeah? Okay, so Peter, thank you very much. I knew that asking